Hey everybody, this is Justin Jaynes and you're watching The Mark Degan Show.
The Marcus Degan Show. Hey, what's the story, guys? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Degan. As always, shooting from Sin City, Las Vegas. Probably one of the greatest places on earth. If you haven't been here, you got to come here. Stop watching it on TV and come and say g'day. Thanks for joining us once again. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on all of your streaming platforms. We've got another great interview here today. I don't really like to call it an interview. I like to call it conversations with interesting and inspiring people. Today we have got another, I don't want to say former fighter, because even though maybe you don't fight in the organisations anymore, I think that's something that you always are. Would you welcome to the podcast, Justin Jaynes?
Well, thanks for having me, Marcus. Really appreciate to be here. And yes, Las Vegas is the greatest town on the earth. Man, you guys, you got food 24/7, man. How does it get any better than that?
So where have you always come from here? Like, where were you before here?
I was from Detroit, Michigan. I moved out here. I did my college internship 2009, 2010.
As what?
Sport and fitness management at Olivet College. So I got my 4-year bachelor degree out there, moved out here in early 2012 after I graduated, and the rest is history, man. Just dedicated my life to MMA, and here we are talking about it.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of interviews and do you do a lot of podcasts to talk about your story?
Not really to talk about my story, but yeah, I do run a podcast Monday, Friday. It's called the 10-7 MMA Show. It's on YouTube. We're small, but we're building. Basically, we just break down every week's fights, who me and my host think is going to win, kind of get a little rivalry per se.
Between each other?
Yeah. It's just fun. And then we we talk about them on Friday, we review them on Monday. So if you guys are watching the 10-7 MMA podcast on YouTube, great appreciate any support.
Oh, I'm definitely going to go and check it out. So you guys obviously had a podcast about the fights that happened last weekend.
Yes, sir.
And who did it go in your favor of who you thought? So let's just discuss a couple of the fights on there. Paulo Costa. And the Aussie.
Man, Paulo Costa, let me tell you this, and I talked a little bit of shit about Costa, coming into this, questioning his mental toughness, questioning his heart, having to back out of a couple fights. His last performance when he fought against Izzy, didn't think it was very good, very lackluster. I was wondering if he was going to carry into Whitaker fight with that. I had Whitaker winning this fight all the way, but to my surprise, Paulo Costa showed up. He put on a banger of a fight, and he won me back as a fan, man. I'm really happy to see. Although he lost, I think he's going to be still in the mix really soon, and I think he's going to be in title contention really soon.
How good did his fucking physique look?
Man, this guy
He looks like a Chippendale.
He looks like a G.I. Joe character, and he talks about his secret juice and stuff, and I know, all the drug testing they do in USADA. This guy is all natural, at least on fight day, because we get tested right before, so guy looks like a G.I. Joe. I wish I could look like that.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the funny comments. How does this guy pass USADA? So how close to the fight would they test you?
We're talking about the morning of.
Oh, really?
So
do you know it's going to be that, or is it just, it could be any time at all?
Well, they can show up at your house. I've had them show up at the gym. One time I was on vacation. They're wondering where I'm at on vacation. They give you a strikes per se. So I went to Mexico for a week, not thinking USADA's going to hit me up. Oh, you're not in the U.S. You didn't tell us you're leaving. Boom, you get a strike.
And that was a strike?
A strike. You get 3 strikes, you're suspended. So that was a big deal when I got that. But yeah, man, they showed up at my house 7 o'clock in the morning. Knock, knock, USADA, answer now. They've showed up at my gym. Hey, knock, knock, USADA's here. And once they're there, they're your buddy. They're not. You don't leave their side. Yeah. Like, they'll follow you to the bathroom. They follow you here. Follow you there. They follow you to work. They showed up at my house. I'm like, I gotta go train. They're like, oh, we'll follow you to the gym. So it was actually really harassing. When I saw USADA was being cut out of the mix, I was really happy because it's harassing as hell, man. I'm trying to get ready for a fight. I'm trying to sleep, and they're waking me up in the middle of the early 7 o'clock in the morning. But
you can't tell them to piss off, can you?
You cannot. They will wait there. The one time I did, I had COVID, so I yelled out my door. I'm like, I have COVID, so they left. But yeah, so after you weigh in early in the morning. Your standoffs are around noon. You have the rest of the day to do whatever. You get back to the hotel, and then 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, knock, knock. They're knocking on our door to take a piss test.
With the main event, do you think that Volk deserves an immediate rematch? Do you think rematches are something that champions that have had such a long standing as him deserve to get straight away, or do you think it's just time to move on now? It's a different circle. It's a different cycle.
We're talking about one of the greatest featherweights of all time. There's 5 great champions that have been a part. He has 5 title defenses. We beat Max Holloway not once, not twice, but 3 times. We're talking about one of the greatest featherweight strikers of all times. And although they were split decisions, very close fights, even just to go 5 rounds with this animal, let alone win, was incredible. Now moving on to the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Islam Makhachev. He takes him on twice, goes to decision once, takes a 10-day short notice fight when he was talking about being on a bender for a week, goes in there, I'd say very fast, experienced Topuria, young at that age too. He's only 27 years old. Guy's going to have a great... I think Volkanovski should have an immediate title rematch. I mean, this guy has done everything in the sport. He's went up, he's went down, he's just a great guy that, when I look at these up-and-coming fighters that I train, I'm like, if you want to pick a fighter to be like Volkanovski, he works his ass off, he makes no excuses, even in these losses, he makes absolutely no excuses. He shows up, he makes weight, he's professional, he's a great person for guys to look up and idolize this day in sport.
Do you think he came back a little too early after that head kick knockout? Like, how long can... Well, this is a two-based question. Do you think he came back too early? And how long can it affect you for afterwards, getting viciously knocked out like that?
I do think he came back too early. And I learned this early in my career. Martin Kampmann from Denmark, he was ranked top 3 in the UFC. Was one fight away from a title fight a couple times. His biggest thing when he retired to the UFC to tell me is when you get hurt, whether it's in training, whether it's in a fight, you need to take time off. You only get one brain. You break your hand, you take 3 months off, 6 months off sometimes. You have to let the bone repair. You have to do rehab. Then you got to make sure you feel good. Your brain is similar in the same sense. You take that bruise on your brain, and that's not recovered. It's only been a couple months. I think he should have took 6 months, maybe even a year off. That was a brutal knockout. And again, he was out of shape. And to go in there, and that was one thing going into this fight that I was concerned about. His mentality of where he could be. Can he get knocked out like that again? And unfortunately for him, it happened again against Ilia Topuria.
Yeah, I suppose once again, it comes down to the fucking mind, bro. People say that mindset is such a huge part of this MMA game. And like you just said, maybe mentally he was affected after that last knockout. I suppose knockouts like that can affect you, and coming back from a devastating injury can affect you. Do you remember when Chris Weidman came back and he fought, I believe it was Brad Tavares in his very first fight, and Brad Tavares...
Just recently. It was last year, actually.
Just kicked that fucking leg until you could hear the shrieks from everybody in the crowd. Conor's going to be coming back from a pretty bad injury. Allegedly, he's going to be coming back, right? Let's hope he does. But if he does, he doesn't. But do you think that as a fighter, if you're going in to fight Conor McGregor after that, are you just going to attack that leg full strength?
100% I really do. Now, I think it's going to be tough to attack Conor's leg because it's his rear leg. So he's going to have to switch to an orthodox, or you're going to have to make it really, you're going to have to get in Conor's range to attack that back leg. And with how powerful his left hand is, I think he's going to be able to hide that leg enough, but it's going to take away his kicks. Southpaw to orthodox, he's going to be kicking the inside of the leg. A lot of unorthodox fighters. Is he going to refrain from doing that? When I broke my right leg, I threw a leg kick, I kicked a guy in the knee. I couldn't kick proper for almost 3 years. Just this last year, 2 years, I've been able to do it again.
Where'd you break it?
Right here at the joint. And it was terrible. I'm talking 2-3 years. Anytime I'd make any impact outside, an elbow, a hip, whatever, even if I hit a quad, but it was in the wrong spot, it hurt. And finally this year, I feel confident. As you can see, my last fight, I was throwing a lot of kicks, and I feel 100% again.
So how do you mentally get over? Because you've had a few injuries in your career, right?
Yes.
Fucking neck surgery, nose surgery, obviously. I'm not sure if you had surgery.
I didn't have surgery here, but I went through rehab for almost a year at the PI.
At the PI. Well, fucking thank God for the PI,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
So, mentally, you've got to be... Do you say that your mentally strength comes from being in mixed martial arts, or are you just that kind of guy?
Honestly, I think my mental strength, my mental fortitude, comes from, my mom, to be honest. I'm talking about one of the toughest women I've ever met in my life. She works her ass off, works the 9-to-5 grind, comes home. We have a 20-horse ranch that she basically runs by herself. So we don't have 20 anymore. We're down to 3 to 5. But she's 60-something, in her mid-60s. She busts her ass at work. She comes home. She puts, all her time into her animals. I had a sister that was 2 years younger than me. She passed away in a car accident when she was 19 years old, and just to see my mom deal with that and be able to bounce back for that, still go to work, come back, take care of all the animals, and dealing with the death of a child, and having a son like me who moved out to Las Vegas away from the farm pursuit of all sports, MMA, and get my ass beat, win or lose. We're talking about the mentally strongest person I know in the world. And I looked around when I had neck surgery and I talked about retiring, this and that. It's like, my mom, it's crazy. Here's another thing. Like a couple of years ago, she was climbing up the ladder to go up into the barn. You understand the rings of a ladder are like this. Her legs gets caught. It's in the middle of winter. She slips. Her legs gets caught. She has a compound fib fracture. She army crawls 200 yards up to the house. The dogs are barking at her, and my stepdad's in the house, and I'd army crawl up. Like, this is a tough bitch, and I look at the injuries that I have to overcome. The things that she's overcome are so minuscule to the things that I've had to overcome. Yeah, hand surgery, nose surgery, neck surgery, but we're talking real problems, real life problems. The passing of a daughter, compound fracture when you're in your 60s. I mean, some people die from that. Working the 9-to-5 grind, coming home to take care of all our animals, man. And anytime I think that I'm being weak, I look at my mom, and she's the strongest person I know.
See, this is what I talk about. This is what's good about these podcasts, is because once again, you can hear the extreme pain and hurt that someone's gone through, but can still come out of it on the other side reasonably sane and maybe even a little bit stronger. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just look at, there's nothing that can slow her down. And, honestly, I'm glad we got to talk about this on the podcast, because it's really weird. Like, when I'm with her, I don't show her that. Like, I don't show her that respect that I'm showing her right now. And it's really weird. Like, when we're face to face, I would never say this to her. I'm just uncomfortable about it. Hopefully she sees this and she knows how much I love her, and, how much she's helped me get through, not even realizing. Because again, I had neck surgery. Yeah, that fucking sucks. Mom had a tib-fib fracture and army crawled through horse manure and dirt and mud and snow all the way up to the house just to call an ambulance for herself. And that to me is real strength.
Is she walking okay now?
She not only is she walking, here's another thing.
She's
One year after
breakdancing.
purchasing, no, she is. She does Tough Mudders. She does Spartan races. And I'm not saying they're especially fast, but that bitch gets in there and she finishes all of them. So, I mean, she's just a motivation. Anybody that knows her, she's a tough bitch. She's very stubborn. She's sometimes hard to deal with because she's so stubborn, but she's mentally the strongest person I've ever met.
I feel really good right now.
Oh my God. Hey, I'm starting to get some tingles.
Yeah, man, I love that you can talk about that, because it's so...
But I can't talk about it to her, though. I feel really uncomfortable.
Why do you
about
think
it.
that is?
I have no idea. I don't say it to... I don't know, man. I don't show a lot of affection to my mom or my dad, and I love them to death, and I don't know why. I wish I could. I wish I could have this conversation with her instead of having it on TV, but I'm not comfortable about it. I don't know why.
I think maybe you just gotta, how it says, face your fears and maybe, make the uncomfortable comfortable. So have you ever just thought about just sitting down and just saying, look, I want to talk to you about something that I've never spoken to you about before. This is going to be a little difficult for me to do this. However, I'm going to give it my best shot. And then grab both of her hands and say, Mum, and then just fucking tell her how you feel, bro. Because you have to, because time is our most precious commodity and we don't have a lot of it. Especially, at Mum's age, she's on the back end of it now. Sure. You know what I mean? And that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So you got to make up for that, because I think you would regret it if, God forbid, something ever happened to Mum and she went to heaven, sure. And you didn't have that chance to say it.
I honestly think what it is I know how her reaction would be and how emotional it would be, and to see her emotions from what I have to say. I don't like to be emotional. I don't like to show emotion. I like to hide behind the curtain closet, and I know how that would make me feel seeing her as good as make her feel.
Yep.
She cries, I cry. I don't want to cry. I'm a tough guy. I'm an MMA fighter, man.
And I've seen your eyes get watery twice.
Yeah, I'm not even joking, dude. I'm sitting here. I can feel. I keep trying to rub my eyes out. No, I'm good. Like, it's an emotional topic for me, man, and to talk about it publicly is very emotional.
Yeah, it's so good to do though, bro, because it lets it out a bit and it helps you express verbally how you feel to someone else instead of just having to internalize it.
Yeah.
And I believe when you can verbally express your love about someone, it's a really good thing. You know what I mean? I think it is. I reckon your mum's really proud of you, and you're a parent too, right?
Yeah, I have a 15-year-old.
He's 15.
Yes.
How's that going at 15?
Oof, man, I'll be honest, man. It's
fucking tough, right?
It's really not, dude. I got so
Oh, it's
lucky.
not? You got a good one.
I have the best kid, and I have the best relationship with his mom and the best relationship with his stepdad. We are a full family unit. There's nothing weird between us. His mom and I dated when we were 15 years old till we were like 20. Then we had Ben at around 20 years old, and I'm 34 now. She's 35, and her husband's a little bit older. But man, he's such a great guy and she's such a great mom. My son is not like me. When I was his age, all I cared about were girls and beating people in wrestling. That's all I cared about. All he cares about is football and good grades. He doesn't care about girls. I mean, I'm sure he does, 15, but not like how I did. He's very empathetic, like I like to hunt. I love to kill animals. And it's not about the kill. It's just the whole, but he has a lot of empathy. He's very sad sometimes when this happens. And I never was like that. I always wanted bigger animals and more animals. And he's just a lot more empathetic and caring than I am. And I couldn't be more grateful for a better son.
That's so awesome, bro. My sister, my two nephews were just murder growing up. You know what I mean? Bad boys. So you lucked out with getting a good one. That's good. And does he live with you?
No, he lives in Michigan with his mom.
Right.
And I credit, his mom and his stepdad, man. It's, they're both cops out in Detroit. They're Detroit cops.
Wow, far out.
Tough lifestyle
Especially
to live.
there.
Especially in Detroit, man. And she tells me some of her stories, man. And we're talking about a very mentally strong person. So Ben is very fortunate. He has Jeremy, his stepdad, who's a great guy. He's a retired cop from Detroit. He has his dad, who obviously I'm mentally strong. His mom is some of the mentally strongest people. He sees his grandma. I mean, the mentally strongest person I've ever met, man. This guy's surrounded with great people to look up to, and we always say, hey, we're never going to make a lot of money, but we share a lot of love. So, and that means a lot to me.
I think that with the way kids are these days and with the way that, with the lack of respect and shit that kids have, it all stems down to the family unit, like what you said, having, that those branches of family around you to protect you, and also good genes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I bet he doesn't smoke pot or drink or anything like that either.
No, I mean, and he's we actually excuse me.
It's
the bubbly water. It's the bubbly water. Like we've talked about it before, and he his answer is I understand how kids growing up, and it's a lot different now than when it was for me. And he says he's been offered, and he goes, no, I'm an athlete. Like I want to go to college. I want to play football in college. His goal is to be in the NFL. And I'm going to support that as long as I can, and until he decides otherwise. I do not want him to be a fighter. This is a terrible lifestyle. There's no money in it essentially unless you're the world champion. I've traveled the world and seen some great things and some crazy things, but at the end of the day, I want my son taken care of, and I hope he goes down another career path.
That can segue into that. Can you play that little asset? This is what made me fall in love with you, Justin. No homo, but
yeah, no, more homo the better. Man. Come on.
We won't be able to hear
this. This was impromptu as well, by the way.
We won't be able to hear it, but without the headphones. But
last
everyone.
3 years of my life have been the time. I've had nose surgery, hand surgery, neck surgery. I lost my UFC contract. I lost all my money in a split decision when I bet on myself. To all you motherfuckers out there that are in the dumps right now, just keep persevering and keep getting up in the morning.
I love that.
Let me tell you guys.
Keep getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
So when I saw it, like I know a little bit about your career. I won't say I'm an expert, but I know that you're a great coach, and you've been in a bunch of the top organizations. But when I saw that little clip there, it said so much about you, and that's why I was really looking forward to talking to you today, because I wanted to see where that spirit comes from, and you've kind of explained that, with how you are with your mental strength.
Yeah. It's like I said, I wake up in the morning. Like this morning was an early morning for me. Up at 8 o'clock, I wake up. I look down now. As soon as I wake up, my TV's right in front, right to the right side of my TV. I have a picture of my son, and I can't tell you how many times I've woke up and like I don't want to go train, and I see him, and it's a picture of him in his wrestling stance, and it's like, you know what? I need to get up because this motherfucker's depending on me, and who am I to try to set an example for him if I'm not waking up in the morning? How can I expect him to? What's one where me and my dad, we misclick. He's very motivational, he's very supportive, but he always tells me what I need to be doing when he never did any of that. And it's very hard. It's easy for him to be like, hey, you need to do this and you need that. It's like, motherfucker, when you were my age, you never did any of this. When you were younger than me, you did any of this. Older, I love my dad to death. We
butt heads a little bit with your dad?
A little bit.
Maybe just conflicting personalities?
Yeah, a little bit.
Doesn't mean you don't love him. He just pisses you the fuck off.
Pisses me off, and he rides me, and it's hard for him to tell me what to do when he's never done it. So like when I see my son, it's like, hey, this is what you need to do. Oh, I don't want to do that. Hey, motherfucker, I'm doing this every morning. You get your ass up and do it too. And I might have got to the top, but I was unsuccessful. I'll call it the way it is. I went 1-4 in the UFC, and I went above and beyond in a lot of ways. And I tell him, I'm like, look, I did this, and this. I might have got there, but I still fizzled out. So you have to do more than I just to get. You have to do at least as much as me to get to where I was, and more than what I did to
say anything. Yeah.
To say anything, exactly. So
you say you fizzled out? Was that how you look at it?
I mean, my UFC stint was really rough, man. I mean, nobody really understands the UFC business. They just watch TVs. Oh, Jaynes is fighting this weekend. Cool. Like, my first fight, 3-day notice. My second fight, I had 4-week notice. I had to go down to featherweight, which I'd never made in my whole career before. I had 4 weeks to go from 185 to 145. Made it, gassed out in the first 2 seconds of the round.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because of the weight cut?
Oh, it was terrible. I was crying during the weight cut. I'm like, I'm done. And Dennis Davis, Roman Isbell there to support me 100% all the way. Like, get your ass up. You got another half pound to go. Mentally broke. Like, the last hour of my weight cut was me standing up and either Roman or Dennis pushing me on the ground, stand back up. That was it for an hour straight. It was fucking terrible. And then my next fight after that, 2-week notice, right after I had COVID. I'm like, I can't fight this weekend. I have COVID. All right, well, what about next weekend? It's like, okay, I'm clear. All right, well, I haven't been training. All right, next week after that, 3-day notice, Devontae Smith. They're like, hey, if you don't take this fight, we might just cut you. And I was like, fuck. So 3-day notice to fight Devontae Smith. Then finally, I got a full camp to fight Charles Rosen. I lost a split decision, man, and that was it. I took a neck injury. I thought it was just a kink in my neck. I played college football. I wrestled in college. I've dealt with injuries before. I was like, it's just a little stiffness. I'm old. Next thing I know, I can't move my left side. I did rehab for 6 months, try to gain it back, and they're like, you got to go under the knife. And I went under the knife last year. And
I see the scar.
Yeah, right here. I got disc replacement.
You have the same thing as me.
It's, dude, best decision I've ever made. I feel like a younger, fresher version of myself right now. As you saw in my last fight, I'm firing all cylinders. I'm making one last run to get to the UFC. I want to show my son that, hey, neck surgery, hand surgery, nose surgery, all 3 surgeries in 3 years, that you can come back from fucking anything. And if I never win another fight after this Carson Hardman fight, I don't give a fuck. But if I encourage somebody to wake up in the morning and do better for themselves or for their family, my job's done.
And this is where I can say how the MMA community, particularly the MMA fans, who I love, however, they are very critical and they are very. I don't think they're that knowledgeable on. They're only seeing what they see in that 15 minutes or that 25 minutes. You're not hearing like these kind of stories, and I think that if fans heard more stories like this, they would tend to not speak so much shit online. Sure. This is why I like, hearing these kind of things, because people are just so quick to jump online and do you get a lot of that?
Oh, man.
You suck, your UFC career sucks.
It's the fucking worst, dude.
You get it a lot?
I mean, when I won my UFC debut, I had 1,000 messages that were all stroking my ego, how great you are. I lost a couple in a row. You owe me money. I bet on you. Hey, you fucking suck as a fighter. Hey, 4055 West Sunset, show up anytime. I'll be there. And we can see how much I suck.
No, they never show up.
Nobody's ever shown up.
Yeah. I thought about a reality show. Kind of, you get the biggest trolls in America that talk shit to professional fighters, and then you bring them down.
Bully Beatdown. Bully Beatdown. They
Similar
did that,
to Bully
remember
Beatdown.
that?
Yeah, that's right. They did.
Yep.
And who was the host from that?
Jason Miller. College roommate Darren Cruikshank, former UFC vet. I got to go down to Salt Lake City and watch him put it on a bully, and I mean that show's legit. Like they think it's staged or choreographed. It's not. Like these fighters.
That was years ago. They need to do an updated version.
Yes, absolutely. And they've talked about it, bringing Jason back because he's such a wild.
How old is Jason these days?
No idea.
Yeah,
no idea.
Right, yeah. It's, is mental health something that a lot of fighters suffer from, do you think?
Yeah, I really think CTE is real, man. And you look at, and I'm not talking shit about Chuck Liddell by any means. I think he's a legend of the sport. I've hung out with him a bunch of times. The guy's the nicest guy ever. But you look early in his career, man, he could take heavy damage in his fights. Now he gets touched on the chin. I mean, he's in his 50s, maybe even 60s now. But, he fought Tito Ortiz a couple, 5 or 10 years ago. Like, I really think that
Randy Couture,
man.
3 times, I think he fought Randy.
He fought Randy 3 times, 1, 2 out of 3. I'm very fortunate to be a part of the Cleveland Clinic does a brain study, and I have to go back every year and I have to do all these cognitive tests, and they're really trying to find out where CTE is in relation to fighters, particularly boxers and MMA fighters, over periods of time. So I've been doing this study for 10 years, and hopefully in the next 10, 15 years, they're going to continue to bring me back, and they're going to look at we're talking about, I started when I was 20 years old, I'm 34 now, and
what have they said?
Right now, it's crazy because I don't take very much damage in my fights, to be honest. I've never been knocked out. The one that I got TKO'd.
But that was just because of the eye, right?
The eye. That I've never taken real damage in a fight. I mean, I've been punched. Don't get me wrong.
You've never taken real damage. Don't have a look at his eye in that fight.
Yeah, don't look at my. I mean, you look at my face, and But as for brain damage, as for being turned off, I've never been knocked out. I've never been, even in training, never been knocked out cold. So I've taken care of my brain. Actually, my test scores actually are getting better. They're saying, but when they look at my MRI, I'm starting to get gray matter So when they look at the MRI, you have your clean gray or your clean contrast, but as the years went, little spots of gray are starting to show up.
And that's where the brain's dying?
And they think that's where the injury is recurring. So the more damage I take, the more gray. Eventually, all our brains are going to start, as we get older, we will all get those spots, but it's happening faster in fighters than non-fighters.
I've got grey spots all over my brain. It's not from fighting. It's just from taking copious amounts of drugs in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. So have you seen the power slap?
Oh, man, I've thought about doing it. $5,000 to get up there and slap some motherfucker. Why not?
And then you can win a 10 grand bonus as well.
I'm not afraid of that, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, talking about CTE, there's no, like I was talking to those guys last week, and, you know, there's no real defense from power slap. Being in power slap, your defense is maybe to exercise your jaw, have a thick, strong neck, but it's really trying to fuck with your opponent prior to getting slapped. Have you watched it? What do you think of it?
I think it's awesome, man. I really enjoy watching it. I love, lighting a joint and watching a couple fights in power slap, man, because these guys are as tough as nails, dude. Reese Archer, a guy from Michigan, he's in power slap right now. Man, this guy is a huge guy. I mean, watching his highlights are just getting slapped across the face and then delivering. And these guys are getting knocked the fuck out, bro. Like, their heads are snapping down. I'm seeing people crack their heads. Fortunately, they're doing a really good job, I think, of trying to catch them as they're falling.
Yeah.
And I think
that's Forrest Griffin's doing
Forrest Griffin, yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a gargantuan man, 6'4", man, just a huge muscle of a man. And he's getting there, grabbing these guys before they're taking serious damage, hitting the ground, and I think it's great.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of them in here. I interviewed a whole bunch of them, and they're just, like I was saying to them, UFC guys are kind of a little untouchable, whereas these power slap guys, they're just like regular dudes, just like regular fucking guys.
Yep.
And a lot of people talk shit on that sport as well, like they did on the UFC when it first started. But there is some skill there, like trying to throw force from your upper body without moving your feet. That's got to be difficult, right?
Absolutely.
Because as you know as well as I do, it's your power generates from your legs.
Yep.
So what is it, all back and shoulder with them and fucking big hands?
I think it's technique, to be honest, because in any sport, whether it's baseball, whether it's MMA, you have to turn your hips. You have golf, you have to rotate on that back foot. Since you can't do that in power slap, and it's beneficial to the fighters that they can because they generate so much more power.
It would knock them out a lot easier.
A lot easier. And I mean, really, the guy that throws the first slap has the significant advantage. But so there is technique behind it. But man, you look at these big Samoan guys with baseball mitts for gloves. I'm not looking to get slapped by those guys.
Makani Manu, my main man right there, all 400 pounds of super heavyweight. We had him in the studio, but just such a sweetheart of a guy.
Sure.
He said that everyone said all the little kids think he's Maui from.
I know what movie
you're welcome.
Talking about. Yes, I know what movie you're talking about. I think The Rock played his voice.
Yeah. The Rock played it. Do you watch WWE, and did you see your mate Michael Chandler's WWE call out of the Irishman Conor McGregor last night?
Yeah, I actually did. I saw
How fucking good was that?
I mean, I think he did it perfect, man. And
he did.
There
was a little crack in the voice there.
Man, Mike Chandler is just an animal of a man. I had the pleasure to train with him when he was in Bellator. He came to Couture for years. The guy is a freak of nature. He's athletic. He's strong. He's fast. He's durable, as you can tell. Justin Gaethje, Mike Chandler is one of my most favorite fights of all time. But yeah, to answer your WWE question, is actually why I get into wrestling because, I'm a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, and I remember sitting in my basement. I'd have like a 65-pound bar dumbbell, and I'd be doing bench, watching Stone Cold drink beer, and I was like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. Yeah. And then I heard wrestling was in high school or middle school, so I signed up, and it wasn't anything like I thought it was. And when I saw the singlet, I was like, dude, Steve Austin doesn't wear that. He just wears a knee brace and, shorts.
The blue shorts.
Beer. Yeah. So I was like, this isn't real wrestling. Like, this is fake. And, I fell in love with the sport of wrestling. And as Steve Austin kind of moved on from WWE, I just stayed with it, went to college, wrestled in college, wanted to compete and do something after college, and here I am.
Have you seen Logan Paul wrestling in the WWE now? He's quite athletic for a big guy.
And we're talking about Logan Paul, who's a state champion wrestler from Ohio. I don't know if you knew that. It's either Jake or Logan or both. I mean, these guys are super athletes. They're not just regular YouTubers that are coming out trying to transition to a sport. These are athletes transitioning over. And when you have as much money as Jake Paul and Logan Paul, you can dedicate your whole life to boxing per se. You can pay for the best trainers. You can pay for the best dietitians. You can pay for the best supplements. That's why these guys are having success, not to mention, again, because they're athletes.
So they were athletes. athletes crossing over to YouTubers that are now crossing back over to being athletes.
And a lot of people don't know that.
They don't
think,
know that.
Yes.
That's good that you brought that up because, look, I mean, Jake Paul's no joke. He's doing pretty good
doing
now,
great.
man.
He's doing awesome.
And I like how he's just trying to build his record. He's just trying to build up his wins, and he's doing pretty well at that. People still fucking hate on it. Why do people like to hate, man?
I think there's jealousy, and when you look at when you say the second part of what we just talked about, a YouTuber transitioning into boxing, people don't understand his background. This guy is a super athlete. He was, like I said, a state champion wrestler, and to have the mindset to wrestle in Ohio, which is a very, very hard state to wrestle in.
Why is that?
The Midwest just has the best wrestlers.
Really? Why?
Michigan, Ohio. I think because we're all farm bred.
I was going to say. I wasn't going to say it. I was going to wait for you to say it.
No, we're all beer drinking, farm bred, bucking hay on the weekends. It's just we got that real tough mentality. Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Like we have some incredible wrestlers. So for him to transition, then he goes to YouTube, makes all his millions. Now he can dedicate everything to training. And I'll be honest, when he first started doing it, I was envious. I was jealous. Like this motherfucker's just a YouTube star. I did some research on him. He's an athlete and he's doing it right. And to knock out Tyrone Woodley, man, Tyrone is a freaking animal, dude. And I know these are smaller guys, but Tyrone is no joke. Yeah. And, Ben Askren, I mean, he's not a boxer, but now he goes and he's beating real boxers.
Yeah. I mean, he arguably, the Tommy Fury fight, he could have, it was pretty close all around. I think there was too much grabbing and holding on the part of Tommy Fury, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next with Jake and Logan Paul. I used to be the same way as you. I thought they were dickheads as well, but now I've grown to have a little bit more respect. And I think I've always respected fighters, but when you talk to them for a living, it just fucking increases like tenfold. There's the knowledge that I get from talking to all of you guys, because you're just such a 1% of the world can do what you do. And when I say can do what you do, I mean in the sense of, how you see people checking leg kicks on TV and then 4 or 5 or 6 and you're hearing it, you're seeing what it's like when you kick your shin on the coffee table. That fucking hurts so bad. But yet these guys can get in there and do it over and over and over and over and over again like it's nothing. How do you guys do that? How's your pain tolerance different?
I don't think it's anything different because, when we first started, it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? Like there was a 5-year period to where we're getting shins checked and we're done training. You give me a hard check, my shin hurts, I'm done for the day. It might be done for the week because you're getting all these micro fractures in your shins. Think of like you see your windshield is all clear. You take a rock, you hit it and it spider webs out. It doesn't break the windshield, but it cracks it. That's essentially what we're doing to our shins. So when they grow back or they repair stronger, there's a lot of drills you can do by hitting shit off it. I mean, it's miserable, but fortunately, I'm to a point right now that my shins are pretty conditioned. I can kick people right in the leg. It doesn't feel good. It never feels good, but it's tolerable to go 15 minutes.
So what's that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie from back in the Bloodsport, where he's kicking the pine tree?
Yeah, that's a real thing. I mean, they
right?
do that in Thailand. I look at some.
Have you been there, Thailand?
I've been there. I didn't fight or anything there. I went to Phuket, danced around at some gyms. I was more there just to hang out.
Check out any of the lady boys?
No, didn't get to party at all, man. I was so bummed I didn't get to party. I heard this place is incredible to party at, and I didn't party at all, man.
Really?
Yeah. It was. I do plan to go back and have a good time. But I mean, these guys are animals, man. You go to like Tiger Muay Thai or something, they can kick steel rods and stuff. They can break baseball bats.
And they're only little fellas, the Thai guys as well, aren't they?
Yeah, real small.
Yeah, a lot of Australians go over there and train because they have where you can just. Like they have a ring in the middle of a bar and you can put your name down like you do in karaoke, right?
And get up there and kickbox. Yeah, hell yeah.
Get up there and kickbox. I'd love to do that.
I went out to I think it's called, man, I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but it's like Ramajan Stadium, and I was drinking in the thing, and I'm like, you know what? I want to get my ass whipped by one of these Thai fighters. So I went to the back with beer in hand. I'm like, hey, sign me up, but they didn't have my size. Not to mention that their president or their king had died like a week or two prior, so they weren't letting any international fighters come over and compete. So
yeah,
I drew a bad straw there.
Have you been to any other countries around the world?
Yeah, I went to India for 2 months.
Oh shit, what was that like?
That was a real third world country, and being an atheist going there, I'm definitely an atheist coming back because the things that you see in a real third world country that you and I won't see in the U.S. I mean, we see homeless people, but we're talking about families on the home. We're talking about people shitting in the street, pissing in the street, begging, going around with no arms, begging for change. And from my understanding, it's all the beggars are run by like gangs. So what they'll do is, you don't have any family. All right, they're going to kidnap you. They're going to chop your arm off, and now you go beg for them because you're more likely to give your money to a guy with one arm than a guy with two arms.
Wow.
And you go through, and it's fucking crazy and nasty. And I fought for the Super Fight League out there, the SFL. They treated me really good. The hard thing for me was nobody's ever on time. Like if you're
in India,
never. Like your training's at 3 o'clock. I mean, the bus might pick you up at 6 p.m. It's fucking crazy.
That would piss me off. I'm pedantic about time.
Yeah, you would not enjoy it. The traffic is miserable. There's no lanes. It's just a wide open road, and you just go.
Yeah.
So everyone it's just a mess. I mean, you're running into each other, and you just keep going.
So you're an atheist. You don't believe in God. You don't believe in the Creator.
I don't. I actually, when it comes to that kind of stuff, in the last 5-6 years, dude, I think God is just an interpretation of alien beings that have come down from space. And I know some people can laugh at that, and I don't really care. I mean, you guys are talking about, and no offense.
No, it's your opinion, and you're completely allowed to have it and voice it.
You talk about, God coming down from the skies. I really think that's interpretation of aliens that have come from other galaxies or planets or stuff. And, as the government's coming out talking about UFOs and all this crazy stuff, and, I am down a loophole right now, like people get sick of me talking about because I get so excited about it. It's like we have a chance in our generation. I tell my son this all the time. We have a chance in my generation, let alone definitely his generation, that we are going to make contact with another civilization.
100%.
I am so confident in it. And here's the other thing. It's like,
no, we've already made contact. It just hasn't been publicized.
I
to
agree
the public.
with that. We're talking about advancements in technology. We're talking about taking care of the world of fossil fuels and shit like that. And, I firmly believe that, angels are representations of aliens. Gods are representations of aliens that have come down in the past. The pyramids, you look at structures like this that happened thousands and thousands of years ago. That just doesn't make sense to our technology these days. And I'm just open-minded about it. And the thing about being an atheist compared to a theist is right now, you give me facts, I change my opinion now. Theists typically don't have that. They're pretty set. And again, my whole family is very religious, and my uncle would probably be disappointed in me talking like this on a podcast right now. But unfortunately, I respect his beliefs, and I hope he one day he respects mine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this article the other day where back in, I think, the 50s, they sent a coded message out into space.
And you saw the crop circle that came back? I watched that episode last fucking night. First time I ever saw it. For you to bring that up, this is last night at midnight. They sent that. It was like a person on it.
There was the sun. There was like all these different planets.
And the planets. And they sent...
they sent the reply back.
Yes.
But it was fucking imprinted into the grass.
Crop circle. I just watched this last night. First time I ever seen it. And for you to bring it up right now is crazy.
Because I literally just watched it. Maybe if it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before.
Yes.
And it just absolutely fucking blew my mind.
Yeah. It was like 50 years apart, too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They sent it to a galaxy, a cluster of stars.
Yeah.
And then 50 years later, or I don't know if it was this year, but in the last 10 years, something got sent back.
Yeah. And if I could kind of describe it to you guys that are listening and not watching, just imagine like, I don't know, like a sheet of paper cut in half, and then written on the paper is like a little picture of a sun, a man, a woman. There may be some stars, and then maybe you see a couple of squiggly lines or whatever. It's like an encoded kind of message, and they sent it out into space, and the reply came back, but it came back in the form of a crop circle.
Yes.
What the fuck?
I can't believe because again, I watch this stuff every night. And for me to just see this last night, and it was very similar for you guys watching, like what came back was the exact same form. It was in a rectangle shape, but the shapes on it were just a little bit different.
Yeah.
And they interpreted that we sent off a picture of a human. Well, they sent back an interpretation of an alien.
Yes.
Yeah, so you saw the same episode. Yeah,
I saw exactly the same one, but just the intricate detail of the crop circle is what was just, I'm just like...
And it's huge. It was hundreds of yards. Yeah, hundreds of yards. So that's my interpretation of religion.
So you do believe there is a higher power. You just don't believe it to be Jesus Christ or God the Father.
I do believe that Jesus probably did walk the earth, and I believe that he probably did share a message. But here's the thing. If Jesus came now, he'd be in a mental institute. You know what I mean? Like if he showed up right now, you go down to homeless, you can go meet Jesus 25 times walking down Fremont Street. Everyone is the sent again. So how do we know that he wasn't a crazy guy or not? I mean, I don't know, man.
There's so many interpretations of what it
Yeah.
could be, what it is, what we'd like it to be,
Sure.
and what the evidence presents itself. And I can understand your point of view because, over the last, well, in particularly the last 3 years, well, maybe the last 5 years since Jeremy Corbell and Bob Lazar kind of have started releasing more of the footage that they've been holding on
Las
to.
Vegas local, by the way, Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar is, and who's the
I'm trying to think of his name right now. He's
the news guy?
dude. I'm on Green. Oh, I'm on his.
Yeah.
What is his name? I'm a part of his group. He has a contact alien.
Oh yeah, so you can go out there with the lasers
yes,
and
I
sit
have it
there
on
in
my
the fucking.
phone,
I want
yes.
to do that, bro.
Dude, it's a little community. I shouldn't say huge. It's a little community in Vegas. There's like 100 members in Vegas. I haven't linked up. Usually I get stoned. It's like I'm gonna be in this group. And Greer is his last name. Thomas Greer. Is it Thomas Greer?
He's the doctor with the glasses.
Yes. Greer.
Juiced up.
I'm gonna look him up right now.
Yeah, look him up right now. I know his last name is Greer, Dr.
Stephen Greer.
Stephen Greer.
Yep. 68 years old. He's I think he's in Vegas as well.
Guys, if you don't know who that is, go and
Stephen
check
Greer.
out his stuff, Stephen Greer on YouTube. It'll blow your mind.
I even have a better one for you. It's on Hulu, and it's the #1 ranked documentary right now. And it's called Unacknowledged. And if you haven't seen it yet, it is incredible. It will blow your mind because what they do in this is they talk about a time in like 2010 where they brought all these high-ranking officials in the government, in the military, and I was like, these are probably fake. So they said, all right, this is Lieutenant so-and-so. Here's his name. Google it. Boom, boom. Well, that guy is this and this, and he's out talking about, trading technology with aliens, and it's a Project Blue Book, and all these different black experiments that they're doing.
Yeah, like Bob Lazar talked about the reverse engineering ages ago, back in the 80s, and then people just thought, that component didn't exist.
I was just going to mention that on the periodic table, he's like, hey, here's a periodic element that doesn't exist on the table. Everything thought he was crazy. 20 years later, it comes out, the exact same element. It's on the periodic table now. These guys know something or another, and they're trying to really let the world down. And as people, we need to be open-minded to this and stop being so closed-minded and just accept the fact that we're not the only ones in this universe.
Why do people have such a problem with believing that?
I think it's because of fear and the stigma behind it is if you believe in this, you believe in aliens under the bed, this is fake, and if you believe this, that you're crazy, and they come out with all these alien movies like Mars Attacks. You remember, like people from Mars come, they kill everybody. Here's the thing, and
I love that movie.
Dude, it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. Movie. But here's the thing: we're talking about intergalaxy traveling, and if these guys are hostile, they could just do this and we're dead, man.
Yeah, but they're switching off nuclear silos when I think I read a story, one got accidentally switched on, but then it was switched off and there was aliens hanging out.
Yeah. And the theory is behind it is that they're just looking out for us because they know how destructive we are. Look up how many nuclear missiles have been shot off into space. It's 0. Every time they've planned to do it, something has come up to where it gets shut down. Every single time. It's never happened.
Well, I think the thing is that a nuclear devastation or a nuclear war or whatever it may be on Earth will not just affect Earth. It will have
a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Yep. So this is why
you and I are watching the exact same stuff.
Fuck,
man.
we are watching the same
shit. Love it. I love it.
Oh, what do you believe in aliens, mate?
I do. Yeah, 100%.
Now, you're like in your mid-20s, right?
28.
So this has become more of a factor. Like when I was 28, it was still, is it true? Is it not? Do you believe 10 more that God doesn't exist and it's aliens, or do you still hang on to your faith?
I think both can coexist. I definitely respect the opinion of people not believing it,
Sure.
But yeah, aliens 100% do exist.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if really God exists. I do believe that, but I can't prove it to you sitting here. We can literally prove to you that aliens have been here.
Yeah.
So what do you think it's going to take for the world to believe it? Do you think it's going to take fucking President Biden to go, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, blah, 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 and then a fucking comes out and gets on the mic? That's the only way people are going to believe it. And even then, they're still going to think it's fake.
I think, it's, and they did a hoax on that. I don't remember if it was Roswell or what it was, but like, all right, well, we have the guy in custody, and they bring out an alien dressed in a costume and handcuffs. So they're making a mockery of it
to deter it.
Yes, exactly. So I would love for an alien spaceship as just go land right on the White House lawn, I mean, you knew the stories in the 60s when they
shoot Joe Biden. And, no, that was a joke. That was a joke.
I didn't say he said that.
That was a joke. I know you're from a blue state, so I'm sorry.
So, but, I mean, in the 60s, I believe that there was, document of aliens cruising over the White House, lighting up. I'm sure you've seen the footage and all that stuff. So, I mean, I'm sold 100%, man. And, honestly, when it comes to religion and stuff, when we talk about God and stuff, it's another thing I get asked a lot. It's like, okay, well, maybe a certain civilization out there is God and this and that. Well, maybe, but here's the thing. You're talking about an all-powerful being that can fix everything, man. We're looking, when I went to the third world country, we're looking at childhood cancer. We're looking at kids dying of starvation. We're looking at overpopulation. We're talking about these people in Africa are eating cookies this big and they're made of mosquitoes and made of mud. If there was an all-powerful being, and let's say he walked in this room, he's like, hey, look, I'm the all-powerful being. He does all this magic to prove it. I was like, I don't want to hang around this guy anyways, man. Like, he could do so much more, and he could go to Africa and help all these kids or go cure cancer and stuff like that. And, that's just, and then you have to tell him how great he is just to get to heaven. I don't want to go there. I'd rather go hang out with the devil and where all my friends are going to be anyways. So, I don't know. I know some people are going to argue with that opinion, not really like for me saying that, but you know what? It's 2024. I'm outspoken. If you got a problem with it, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to offend anybody.
Yeah, because there's too many snowflakes out there. So if you don't like what he's got to say, you can fuck off.
Hey, 4055 West Sunset.
That's it. Extreme Couture. Go down there and sort it out.
Yes, sir.
Who's the hardest working MMA fighter that you've seen in that gym?
There's no question about it. Sean Strickland is the hardest
I was going to talk about that. He is?
Yes, he is. I mean, he is outspoken. He is crass. But I tell you what, that guy shows up at the gym every day, more than everybody. He spars every single day. If he says he's training, he's training. This guy works his ass off. He deserves everything he gets. Again, agree with him, not agree with him, like him, don't like him. This guy deserves everything he gets. He works his ass off every single day. And, more than everybody, more than me. I mean, maybe early in my career, I'd put up those numbers, but I'm getting older. I get hurt more now. I got to watch my training. He's in there banging every single day, working on his craft, getting better.
Did you see what he did to Sneeko? What did you think about that?
I saw it and I thought it was a little much, but then I heard why he did it. And he made a whole video that was like a minute long of why he did it. And he goes, you have to understand, I don't come to your job and tell you that I can do your job. When you get these civilians that are coming into an MMA gym, they're approaching fighters talking about how they could do it if they wanted to. They need to be taught a lesson to where, no, you can't. If I'm a race car driver and you suck at race car driving and I come on a lap, you're going to lap me 25 times to show you how slow I am. And he was putting an example. Like, I don't know the whole backstory behind it on how it happened, but he's like, all right, dude, like, and it's happened, in the gym even for me, guys. I remember this one guy comes in, I'll beat everybody here. And Dennis Davis, the head coach, is like, Justin, go with this guy and put it on him, man. There's a level of respect. Now, if I spar Sean, he's going to beat my ass, but not like that.
Right.
Not because he couldn't, because he has a mutual respect for me. Right. I've been in this grind. I've been in the UFC. I've been busting my ass to get to where I got to get. This Sneeko guy's never done anything. He needs to be taught a lesson that you are not a fighter, and I'm going to show you why you're not. And I really, after he explained it that way, I really got behind him with that.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with it. I saw Sneeko the next day, and I was like, good job in there. And he goes, oh, really? Look at my nose. And his nose was
all broke.
Yeah. People were saying that, I don't think Sean was trying to knock him out, because if he wanted to knock him out, he could have, right? He just wanted to put a bit of...
I asked him, I was like, why didn't you hit him in the body? And he goes, because I wanted to hurt his face. I was like, all right, well, that makes sense, I guess. He goes, I wanted to really leave a mark there.
How was his mindset after the whole Drickus fight?
I don't think he gives a fuck.
Doesn't give a fuck, does he?
No, he just genuinely loves to fight, loves to compete. I mean, when he says that, like, he's not fazed by it. He's not the champ anymore. He told me that, after he got the belt, he brought it to the gym the next day, and it was in his
already
closet.
Broken.
Yeah, he threw it in his closet. Something was broken on it. It was something crazy. Like, I don't think Sean really cares about the glory. I genuinely think, and I know a lot of guys will just say that, I just like to fight. Let me tell you this, I like to fight, but if I could be the champ or have an opportunity to be the champ, that would matter to me. To him, wins and losses, I don't think matter. He just wants to fight the best in the world, and that's just what he loves to do.
Just a different breed of man, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's raw, and everything he says is genuine. It's not a show.
And you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say a lot of the things he says I actually tend to agree with.
Sure, but you might be afraid to say it out loud. So when you see him say it out loud, you're like, wow. At least for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I agree with everything Sean says. Maybe 1% of everything he says I might agree with. But he's so outspoken about it, I wouldn't go on a public platform in front of millions and millions of people and voice my opinion like that.
Yeah. But once again, he's an adult man that's an American citizen that you can say what you want, right? Isn't there something called the First Amendment?
That's absolutely
You know
freedom
what
of
I mean?
speech. Yep.
Freedom of speech.
And that's one thing I commend Dana White for really, sticking to him. They're like, how much are you going to let Sean say and get away with? Dana White says, we're in America. It's freedom of speech. He can say, I'm not going to tell him what he can and cannot say.
Yeah.
We're in America. This is why the country's great. So I really appreciate, Dana White, stepping up and taking that approach instead of saying, hey, you can't say this, you can't say that. Sean says what's on his mind, whether you like it or not. That's just who he is.
Yeah, I actually finally met Dana White last weekend. He was a great guy, very nice.
Yeah.
I was watching him gamble with more anxiety than I can even tend to. Like, I mean, that's gambling.
Yeah.
$50,000 hands at a time.
Yeah, that's gross.
It was like, I honestly was, and it wasn't my money. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that, those big ballers gamble like that. But oh my God, I've never seen anyone gamble like that. And I was just,
How'd he do?
he did fucking awesome. He did real
really?
bad, and then he did real awesome.
Brought it all back, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Won it all back, exactly.
Oh, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't even picture that life.
The most money I ever bet was $25,000, and I bet it one time, and I lost a split decision.
And
And
bet it on yourself.
bet on myself, against Charles Rosa. And, when I went to split decision, I heard Adelaide Bird scores this fight 30-27. I was like, well, there's no way he won every round. I mean, I rocked him. I took him down. I had him in a side choke, and she announced his name. And I was just like, it's crazy. Adelaide Bird, I don't want to go off on a tangent about her, but I think she's crooked as hell, man. She's judged 2 of my fights. The first fight she judged in California, I dropped the guy with a left uppercut, get on him, I guillotine him, I finished the round in mount. She scores the round against me. Regardless, even if I had lost 3 of those minutes, it was such dramatic finishing of the round. I don't think I did anyways. And she scored it against me. And then she did that with Charles Rosa again. It's like, I almost want to question her. Like, do you have a vendetta against me? Did I do something wrong?
Did you say you want to? Why don't you?
Because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. She's been accused of fixing fights in the past, in the boxing fights. But
How dare they do that with people's lives?
it's just crazy. And again, if it was a close round, it's like, all right, cool. But I dropped him. Bang. He falls back. I grab a guillotine. I finish the round in mount, and you scored against me. And I just don't understand that, And I tried to ask her after that fight, and they kept me away from her because I was fired up. I was pissed about it. And then Charles Rosa, as soon as I heard her name, I was like, there's no way she's going to give me this fight. She scores it 30-27 against me. And I was just like, every other judge or the other 2 judges on the panel at least had me winning 1 round, and you score all 3 of them against me. You're crooked as fuck. I don't get it.
So what would you have won? 75?
I'm trying to think. I was like a plus 200 dog. So I bet $25,000. It was like 50. Yeah, it would have been 75 total.
Fuck. You must, I mean.
I was sick. I had a boat lined up. I had a boat that I thought I was going to win the fight. I was so confident that I already bought a boat. Like, I had to call the guy I bought it from and say, hey, man, something didn't work out. Like, this money was already spent, and I was that confident. I was just gleaming with confidence. And when that decision, came out, and the worst part about it is you can see in the video, like, I'm sitting there waiting to get the name call, and I'm sitting here like this, and she goes, Charles, and I thought she said Just, so I jump, and I was like, oh, that hurt my belly really quick.
Sorry that happened to you,
It happens. That's life, man. If that's the worst thing that's going to happen in my life, I'm doing all right.
Well, the fact that you can keep soldiering on through all this bullshit just says a lot about who you are, man, because fucking hell, how much can one man take?
I mean, we all have our own story, dude. It's not, I'm not
we
trying
do,
to
we
be
do.
more dramatic than anybody else.
No, I get it.
We all have a story. We all have to get through, valleys, and, we have to sometimes run through fire, man. And, I just want to help everybody else get through those battles. It's like I said, I'm not fighting anymore for money. I realize there's no money to be made in this sport. I'm fighting to show everybody that you can wake up every morning and continue to fight as long as you want to.
So you've given about $1 million today, which has been great. How I normally like to close off the podcast is I always like to ask my guests what their message is to people, because sometimes it really helps. Mate, what's your message?
My message is the same thing I said on my post-fight interview, guys. Just keep waking up in the morning, keep persevering, guys. I know I sound like a broken record because, it sounds so cliche per se, but really waking up in the morning for me is sometimes the hardest battle, man. I especially if I don't have to train. And, when you're in high school, when you're in college, you have coaches harping on you, you have to be at practice. As an MMA fighter, you don't have to go. I can take a week off. I can take 2 weeks off. I can take a year off. Nobody's going to call me to check. So for me, my personal battle is genuinely waking up in the morning and trying to go to training. And I know a lot of fighters struggle with that. And, you know, people wake up like, oh, fuck, this job sucks. Why do I even go anymore? Just keep working, make some goals. And if you have a shitty job right now, fucking wake up, make a goal of, hey, by this time next year, I want a better job. Keep working up, grinding that fucking job. And then when you're done with that job, go grind something else and try to, you know, make something happen. Like, I'm sure your podcast didn't start like this, all glam. I mean, you probably started behind a laptop, you know, talking to yourself.
Yep.
Like, did you think, you know, how long it'd take? I'm sure it didn't happen overnight.
No, didn't.
And you know, that's for everybody. You know, I didn't get to the UFC overnight. It took me 13 years of getting my ass whipped. I started fighting in 2007. I didn't get to the UFC till 2020. Yeah. 2020, man. It took 13 fucking years of getting my ass whooped and being broke, and I'm still fucking broke. But I'm still going to wake up in the morning. I'm still going to work my ass off because I want to show my son and I want to show everybody else in the world that, hey, if this fucking hillbilly bum, you know, can do it, anybody can do it.
I mean, there you go, guys. Said it right there. Fucking awesome conversation.
Marcus, appreciate you.
It was so
Absolutely.
good. Thank you very much for coming on, bro. I really
Absolutely,
appreciate
man.
it. I'm a fan, but I'm even more of a fan now. So thank you for being so open, and it was a great conversation.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate you having me.
Guys, I got to say it. Like this video. Thanks for coming back to the channel. Share it. Tell everybody. Leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm. We're doing great on Spotify. I'm just trying to build that YouTube up. We're killing it on social media. Follow the YouTube channel, all right? Hey, guys, thanks for listening into another kick-ass conversation today. I'm so grateful to be here. This is Marcus Degan for The Marcus Degan Show. We're out.